Welcome to the Board Business Channel. Ready to dive into a company that's, well, let's just say they're not exactly the flashiest name out there, but trust me, they're doing some seriously important stuff.
Okay, you got my attention. Lay it on me.
We're talking about Formosa Daikin Advanced Chemicals, FDAC for short.
FDAC. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it?
No, not really. But what they lack in a catchy name, they more than make up for an impact, especially in the world of semiconductors.
Semiconductors. Okay, now you're speaking my language. Those tiny little chips that power pretty much everything you say.
Exactly. And FDAC is right in the thick of it. They're a joint venture between Formosa Plastics Group, a huge player in Taiwanese industry, and, get this, Daikin Industries.
Daikin, like the air conditioner company.
Yep, that's the one. But here's where it gets interesting. Daikin isn't just about keeping us cool. They're also a major force in fluorine chemicals. And guess what? Fluorine chemicals are absolutely essential for making those semiconductors.
Hold on, so the company that makes my AC is also involved in making the chips that are in my phone. That's wild.
It is pretty wild, right? So to break it down, FDAC makes something called electronic-grade hydrofluoric acid. It's like the magic potion for etching and cleaning silicon wafers.
Okay, I'm vaguely familiar with silicon wafers, but etching? Cleaning? How does that work?
Imagine you're creating an incredibly detailed microscopic engraving on a tiny piece of metal. That's kind of what this acid does, but on an unbelievably small scale. It helps create those perfectly smooth, perfectly etched wafers that are the foundation for those amazing little chips.
So without this acid, no chips.
Pretty much. You'd have chips full of imperfections, and let's just say our smartphones wouldn't be quite as smart. And here's the kicker. FDAC is the #1 supplier of this stuff to Taiwan's semiconductor industry.
Taiwan, the mecca of chip making, right? Just how much are we talking here?
They hold a whopping 60% of the market share. That's more than half. Like, imagine owning the majority of all the coffee shops in Seattle.
Wow, they're not messing around. So they're supplying the companies that are making the chips that are in practically everything. Our phones, our laptops, our cars, probably even our toasters at this point, right?
You got it. And get this, the global semiconductor market is projected to hit $1 trillion with a T in the next few years. FDAC is sitting pretty, supplying this crucial ingredient to this booming market. Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
It's like they struck gold, but instead of gold, it's super powerful acid. Okay, so they're clearly the kings of this hydrofluoric acid. But are they doing anything else in the semiconductor world?
Oh, yeah. They're smart. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They also make other essential chemicals for the industry. Things like buffered hydrofluoric acid, which is basically hydrofluoric acid, but even more precise, and ammonium fluoride, used in other parts of chip making.
So they've got their fingers in all the semiconductor pies, huh? I'm starting to see why this company is worth talking about.
And here's something else to consider. FDAC's growth is directly tied to the growth of the semiconductor industry. The more chips we need, the more of their products we need. It's a beautiful symbiotic relationship, but with, a lot less cuddling and a lot more science involved.
I appreciate that visual. Makes sense, though. But how are they managing to keep up with this insane demand for chips?
They've been pouring money into expanding their operations and innovating, upgrading facilities, developing new and better products. Back in 2007, they invested heavily in expanding their hydrofluoric acid production. And that move helped them become the second largest producer in the world.
Second largest in the world. Now that's impressive.
Right. And that was back in 2007. Imagine how much they've grown since then.
They're like the quiet giant, quietly churning out these essential chemicals while the rest of the tech world is busy making headlines.
That's a great way to put it. The quiet giant. And speaking of giants, remember we talked about Daikin being the air conditioner king? Well, they've been pushing hard for sustainable manufacturing practices, and they've brought that same focus to FDAC.
Wait, so they're making these crucial chemicals in an environmentally friendly way?
Yep, they're doing their part to minimize their impact. It's good for the planet and good for business. Consumers are becoming more aware of sustainability, so it makes them stand out.
Absolutely. They're the full package. Essential products, market dominance, growing like crazy, and sustainable. What's not to love? Well, maybe the name. I'm still not over that. Formosa Daikin Advanced Chemicals. Come on.
I know, right? Maybe they figure they're so good they don't need a catchy name. They let their products do the talking.
Fair enough. I guess when you're supplying the brains of the digital world, you can afford to be a little understated. But I do wonder, is this low-key approach the best strategy? Maybe more visibility would help them attract top talent, maybe even inspire a better name.
That's a good point. Maybe they're so busy in the lab cooking up those super secret chemicals they haven't had time to think about their brand image.
Or maybe they're just playing it smart. Flying under the radar can be an advantage. Less distractions, more focus on what they do best.
Yeah, you're right. The silent force behind a trillion-dollar industry. I don't need to brag, they just deliver.
Exactly. But I have to admit, I'm a little curious about the people behind this whole operation. What are they like? Who are the masterminds running this show?
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining scientists in lab coats, mixing bubbling concoctions, coming up with those groundbreaking formulas.
Right. Maybe they have a secret lair under the factory where they're plotting the future of technology.
Okay, maybe we're getting a little carried away now.
Just a bit. But seriously, I'm curious about their leadership team, their company culture, their vision. It's all a bit of a mystery.
Well, maybe that's their secret weapon. Staying mysterious. Letting their success speak for itself.
True. Maybe they are like superheroes, hiding their true identities to protect the world from, bad chip performance.
You never know. But hey, maybe we should reach out to them, see if they're willing to spill some of their secrets.
Now, that's an episode I would definitely tune in for. Speaking of secrets, my friend Steve, he's the executive director of the Arizona-Taiwan office, and he was telling me how Arizona is really trying to attract companies like FDAC.
Oh, wow, really? That makes sense. Arizona's becoming a pretty big tech hub these days.
Yeah.
They're probably drooling over the idea of having a company like FDAC set up shop there.
Seriously, it's like trying to convince the best pizza chef in the world to open a restaurant in your town. Everyone wants a piece of that.
Totally. If you can't beat them, join them. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe Arizona's hoping some of that FDAC success will rub off on them.
Well, if FDAC is thinking about expanding, Arizona wouldn't be a bad choice. Lower taxes, a growing tech workforce, lots of sunshine. It's a pretty good deal.
And don't forget, they'd be closer to all those semiconductor companies out in California. It'd be like setting up shop right next door to their biggest customers.
Yeah, that's a smart move.
Yeah.
Speaking of smart moves, we've talked a lot about what FDAC does, but how do they actually, make money? What's their business model?
Ah, that's a great question. It's actually pretty straightforward. They're like the ultimate B2B supplier. They sell their specialized chemicals directly to those chip-making companies. No fancy marketing campaigns, no retail stores, just pure high-tech chemistry straight to the source.
So they're kind of like the wholesale ingredient supplier for the semiconductor world, like those giant warehouses that supply restaurants, but instead of flour and sugar, they're delivering hydrofluoric acid.
Exactly. Though hopefully they're a little more careful with their deliveries than your average flour delivery. You wouldn't want a hydrofluoric acid spill on the highway, would you?
Definitely not. But you're right. It's a pretty smart model. They've found their niche. They're the best at it. And as long as we keep needing chips, they're going to keep riding that wave.
Totally. It's like they've found the golden ticket in the semiconductor chocolate factory. But, the tech world is always changing. What are some of the challenges FDAC might face down the road?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is competition. Right now, they're at the top of their game, but there are always new companies trying to get into the market. They can't just sit back and relax.
It's like a high-stakes game of chemical chess. One wrong move and they could lose their advantage.
Exactly. They got to stay ahead of the game, keep innovating, maybe even think about diversifying their product line. Who knows what the next big thing in semiconductors will be, right? Maybe FDAC will be the ones to invent it.
That would be pretty amazing. Imagine them coming up with some revolutionary chemical that makes chips even smaller and more powerful.
Or maybe they'll figure out how to make chips that run on, sunshine and rainbows.
Okay, maybe not that far-fetched. But you get the idea.
Yeah, totally. But it's not just about new products, right? They also need to think about their supply chain. What happens if there's a disruption in their raw materials? Or some big geopolitical event that messes with their manufacturing or shipping?
Oh, yeah. You're right. Those are some serious risks. The semiconductor industry is already facing some supply chain issues, so FDAC needs to be ready for anything.
Backup plans, multiple suppliers, maybe even consider setting up production in other parts of the world.
So basically, they need to be as adaptable as like a chameleon in a disco ball factory, always changing, blending in with whatever's going on around them.
I love that visual. And it's true, agility is super important in this industry. But it's not just about external challenges, right? They also have to think about internal ones, like how do they attract and keep the best talent when everyone's fighting for the same people?
That's a good point, especially when you're a company that's not exactly known for being, the life of the party. They need to find a way to make working at FDA appealing to those bright young minds.
Maybe they can offer like free air conditioning for life.
Now that's an employee perk I can get behind. But seriously, they probably need to build a strong company culture, offer competitive salaries, good benefits, and really highlight the impact their work has on the world.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. They're powering the technology that's changing the world, but they themselves are operating in this, relative obscurity. Maybe it's time for them to come out of the shadows and share their story a little more.
I agree. Sometimes the most impactful players are the ones working quietly behind the scenes, keeping everything running smoothly. Not everyone needs to be in the spotlight.
Exactly. And that's something worth celebrating.
For sure. So to everyone at FDAC, the scientists, the engineers, everyone, keep up the amazing work. You're the unsung heroes of the digital age. We appreciate you.
Cheers to that.
It's kind of funny. We started this episode talking about watching paint dry, and somehow we ended up on this deep dive into semiconductors, secret layers, and chemical superheroes.
It's crazy how a company making something as, I don't know, basic as hydrofluoric acid can be so interesting when you really dig into their story.
I know, right? It's like we stumbled upon a hidden treasure chest full of all this knowledge and intrigue.
Definitely. And it just shows that you can always learn something new, even about things you think you already know.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, what's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners will remember from this episode? What's the FDAC wisdom we should all keep in mind?
For me, it's that impact and visibility aren't always the same thing. FDAC might not be a household name, but they're playing this essential role in a global industry that affects all of us.
Yeah. They're like the wizard behind the curtain, making all the magic happen, but nobody sees them.
Exactly. And I think that's a good lesson for anyone, whether you're in business, tech, or anything really. Sometimes the most important work happens behind the scenes without a lot of fanfare.
Well said. And hey, if anyone from FDAC is listening and you're thinking about opening a new facility, give my friend Steve a shout. He's the executive director of the Arizona Taiwan office. He'd love to talk about all the great things happening in Arizona.
Just putting it out there.
Okay, folks, that's it for our look at Formosa Daikin Advanced Chemicals. We hope you enjoyed learning about this fascinating company.
It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to the Board Business Channel. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.